Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and I am so excited that you decided to take time out of your day to spend with me because in this video we will basically just be doing some mood reading. The only stipulation is that the books must feature some type of LGBTQIA character or author. That is the only stipulation. And I'm super excited about this. I didn't get it out as quick as I wanted to. This was supposed to come out in June, but you know what? We can read these books all year round. They're not limited to Pride Month. So, yeah, I read a pretty good number of books in here. Now, how successful we are, you can judge that on your own. But anyway, yeah, let's just hop into these books. Alrighty, friends, let's talk about Her Majesty's Royal Coven. So I don't know what I was expecting going into this book, but I was very much pleasantly surprised at what I did end up getting. Okay, so in this we are following four young girls as they are inducted into Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which was established by Queen Elizabeth I as a covert government department. So we see them get inducted into this, and then we kind of flash forward to them as adults and the various paths that they have taken. We follow Helena, who is the current high priestess of HMRC, and we follow Leonie who has broken away from HMRC and has started her own coven that focuses more on diversity and intersectionality within the community because she felt that those groups were underrepresented and not taken care of within HMRC. We have Elle, who doesn't really practice at all anymore. She kind of has foregone her magic. She got married, had kids, and is a mom and I think a nurse. And then our final main character is, I'm trying to remember how to say her name. I think it's Neve, but it's like a Dutch name, I think. I was wrong, first of all. It's it's Irish, but I was right that it's Neve, okay? So Neve is a veterinarian and she has kind of just stopped practicing as well and is focused on that. So Neve didn't exactly stop practicing. She just uses her powers to help the animals that she's saving as of it, okay? Had to make that clarification. But anyway, there has been this prophecy, I guess you could say, or prediction that a young warlock is going to come in and destroy the world. And Helena, as the high priestess of HMRC, calls in her friends because they are some of the most powerful witches, and it's like, hey, I need help. We need to figure out what to do about this warlock. And so she mainly enlists Neve to help her, and you just kind of see how they decide to handle this situation with the warlock. And they kind of end up on opposing sides of this, okay? And the four friends have to kind of decide where their loyalties are going to lie in this situation because there isn't a lot of gray area. You have the side that wants him dead and the side that is like, it's just a kid, let's try something else, okay? And from the beginning, I knew that I was going to enjoy this because I really like Juno Dawson's writing style and the just overall tone of this book. I think it's funny. I think it's yeah, I thought the writing was funny and I I didn't find anything really cringe about it. And so yeah, I knew that it was going to be something I was going to enjoy strictly off of that. But also the fact that this book, to me, this is just my personal opinion, this is a great example of an inclusive book that doesn't or isn't trying too hard to be inclusive. It feels like it is a very like genuine and natural thing, kind of like the world. It doesn't feel forced, and I really like that, because sometimes you can tell that authors just put in a character for the sake of representation instead of it just being a representation, instead of it just being a mirror of what the world actually looks like anyway. I did enjoy that we got perspectives from each of the 4 characters, and they were very easy to tell apart. Each of them had different things going on, different personalities. But you know, sometimes when you get a cast of characters, it's kind of hard to decipher who is who, what each person has going on. But that was very easy in this book, and I like that the characters had very different things going on, so you could kind of see, you know, it kind of mirrored real life in that way for me. When you grow up, everybody goes in different directions. Like no one exactly ends up in the same spot in life, and so I enjoyed, you know, just kind of seeing the different journeys that each person was taking and what their adult life looked like. I will say though that throughout this book, it does ignite very strong feelings, at least for me it did, of, I don't even want to say hatred because I hate using that word, but like one character in particular, and I can just tell you who it is. I mean, should I? No, I'm not gonna tell you. I changed my mind that quick. One particular POV and one character is so insufferable. They are just the worst person in my opinion. They're transphobic, they're homophobic, they're slicked, like they have microaggressions, they're very like air quote traditionalist and don't want things to change, and just are very much like in their privilege and not wanting anyone else to have any of that privilege at all. And I just wanted to punch them in the face, like seriously. Like I hated reading chapters in their POV. But one thing that I will say is that Juno Dawson did not try to give a redemption arc for this person or try to like make us understand their point of view. She was hitting everything, like knocking everything that this person said and thought on the head, and like telling us like, nope, that's wrong. Like she's not even giving her an inch or a centimeter, and I really enjoyed that. But in that same vein, there are some triggering things in here, so if you know transphobia is something that is going to bother you, then maybe, you know, look into it a little bit. Like I said, Juno Dawson doesn't let it slide at all. She is combating it at every turn and like, you know, hitting you back with why it's not okay. But one of these characters is a trifling heifer. Just want you to know that going into it. But I think the ending to her story was just, it fit. Okay, it fit, and it did what it needed to do, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, I had a great time with this. I liked that it was like witches and magical things in a real world setting, and a lot of the conversations in this book, while it was set in England, it feels very familiar and like things that are going on in America right now. I just like what Juno Dawson has to say, and I will definitely be continuing this series going forward. It's a great representation of all identities, all walks of life. I think everyone can find a little bit of themselves within this book, and yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time. I flew through this actually. It read so quickly, and I think that was just because I was really enjoying the story that is being told, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So yeah. Oh, I didn't tell you when I rated this. If you can't tell, I loved it. I rated this a 4.5 star, and yeah, it might be one of my favorite books of the year so far. I don't know, maybe though. So yeah, anyway, yeah. Now I don't know what to say, but yeah, I definitely really enjoyed this book, and I think that, you know, if you haven't read it, you need to give it a shot. Let's talk about Being Hospitable by Meka James. This is a shorty little novella that is the first in the Desert Rose Hookups series, and we're following Kiki Jenkins, who knows that opening her home to her best friend's younger sister means giving up some solitude. What she doesn't expect is for her new roommate to become temptation in the form of novelty panties and flirty innuendos, but Charlie is off limits for several reasons. Charlie Graham wants to be seen as more than her brother's little sister, and she wants Kiki to do the seeing. Her new internship provides the perfect opportunity. Plan is in motion. She's not going to let their close living quarters go to waste. The arrangement may be temporary, but as they grow closer, a permanent change of address might be in order. Now, I want to start this off by saying that this novella is 70 pages. And because it is so short, I know that we are not going to be able to get this like full fleshed out story. And I know that some things are going to have to be missing from it, which is why we don't get to see Charlie and Kiki build the relationship. They already know each other. Charlie is Kiki's best friend's younger sister, and so they all kind of grew up together also. And so I do think that not getting to see that getting to know you stage kind of hurt the story a little bit for me personally, but I understand why we started with them already knowing each other and with Charlie moving into Kiki's apartment. Okay, so it also felt like a tinge bit weird to me because Charlie's brother, I forgot his name, and Kiki are like very close, like best friends, like almost sibling close best friends. But I understand that, you know, your best friend, like the closeness with you and your best friend doesn't necessarily extend to their siblings, but it just makes it like a tinge little like Anyway, so I did like that once they started hooking up, Kiki was immediately like, yeah, we're gonna tell your brother, like, I'm not gonna keep this from him. This isn't gonna be a secret. We're not gonna be sneaking around. We're gonna be out in the open. And I really like that because I feel like that's kind of where a lot of, you know, best friends, siblings stories go wrong because they try to hide it in the beginning. Like, we're all grown here and it doesn't matter whether they like the choice or not. This is the choice you made, so why try to hide it, you know? I do think that the spice was good. I enjoyed that. I think also because we started this story with them knowing each other, we didn't get to really see why they like each other, you know? Like, what did Kiki like about Charlie? What did Charlie like about Kiki? Like, we didn't really get that full breadth of the relationship. We just got like, okay, we're attracted to each other and I like you, so let's do this, but not really the why or like how that grew into that, you know? They're just like, we've always had a crush on each other, so like now's our time. I don't even know if anything that I'm saying is making sense, but like I said, there's only so much that I can say. There was 70 pages. I rated this a 3.5 star. I really enjoyed it for what it was. I think that the only solution to any of these small qualms that I had with this would be to make it longer, which the author didn't feel like she needed to do. So who am I to tell her what to do? She gave us the story she wanted to give us, and I had a fun time with it. So yeah, 3.5 stars. I don't think that I'm going to be continuing on in this Desert Rose hookup situation. I don't feel like any of them are like calling my name or anything. So yeah, I think this will be like my start and end with this series, but I am glad that I tried it out. And I'm always looking for sapphic novellas or just novellas in general. I think they're a good time, a good quick time, because sometimes you just want to get in and get out. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a whole 500-page situation. You just need like a little bit of, just a little something. And so I love novellas for that purpose. And I feel like I've been slacking on them. I feel like I read a lot more last year than I have this year. So I wanted to pick up my novella reading again and, get it back going. So this was a good one to start off with. 3.5 stars. I would recommend that you try it out. And that's all I gotta say. Okay, so I am ready to talk about Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. So this book is, I think it's a fantasy book, but I will be honest with you, it's very light on the fantasy. And we're following three siblings, Meredith, Arthur, and Ailey, whose father, Thayer Wren, is the brilliant CEO of Ren Fair Magitech and so-called father of modern technology, who just died. Any one of his three telepathically and electrokinetically gifted children would be a plausible inheritor to the Ren Fair throne, or at least so they like to think. So we are following each of the three siblings, learning more about them, learning about their relationship to their father and why they think they should, be the inheritor to his Magitech empire, essentially. And I thought that this would be heavier on the science, heavier on the Magitech, heavier on, all the technical things, and it was not. And if you've read the Atlas 6, you know how heavy handed all of the technology and science is in that book. This is not like that. And I think the writing style is closest to that if you've read any of her other books, but you're not confused about what she's talking about. She's not going on long rants about things that we don't understand. I think that's an easier way to put it. This is more of a character study. We're following, like I said, each sibling. Yes.
Hi, friends.
You can say hey.
I'm not saying it.
You just did. I'm gonna keep it in too. So yeah, we have Meredith, who is running her own let's see. I don't want to tell too much, so I'm just going to read a little bit from the synopsis. We have Meredith, who is the textbook accomplished eldest daughter and the head of her own groundbreaking biotech company, and she has recently cured mental illness, apparently. If only her father's fortune weren't her last hope for keeping her journalist ex-boyfriend from exposing what she really is, a total fraud. We have We have Arthur, the second youngest congressman in history, who fights the good fight every day of his life, and yet his wife might be leaving him and he's losing his re-election campaign. But his dead father's approval in the form of a seat on the Ren Fair throne might just turn around his sinking ship. And we have Ailey, once the world's most famous ballerina, who has spent the last 5 years as a run of the mill marketing executive at her father's company after a life altering injury put an end to her career. She might be lacking in accolades compared to her siblings, but if her father left her everything, it would finally validate her worth by confirming she'd been his favorite all along. On the pipeline from gifted child to clinically depressed adult, nobody wins, but which Ren will come out on top? And that is one of the topics that I feel like is most discussed in this book, like literally going to gifted child having so much potential, everyone talking about how much potential you have, you building your self-worth on this potential, and then not exactly realizing it in the way that you hoped and essentially becoming a clinically depressed adult. And I think that is what connected me to this book the most, because yes, like that is my life. How did you know? Olivie Blake, do you know me? Because yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was really able to relate to each of the siblings, I feel like, in that way. And there's why I talk about that. I really liked that Arthur and Meredith had this like very interesting relationship. They had nicknames for each other that I just thought were really funny, and they kept it going throughout the book as a kind of like running joke, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was funny, but I really hated how they treated Ailey, just because Ailey was the perceived favorite of the siblings. And I mean, Thayer didn't exactly keep it a secret that he felt that Ailey was his favorite. And I hate that so much. I hate when parents are so obvious, like picking favorites for their kids. First of all, you had all of these kids, so why are you picking a favorite? Like they all came from you. But then to make it obvious, it just creates tension between the siblings and always makes, the siblings treat the supposed favorite a type of way. And I just hated that for Ailey, because she just really wanted her siblings to like her. And Meredith especially was just determined to not like Ailey simply because Ailey was her daddy's favorite. That's just rude. I realized when I was about 50% into reading this that it was going to be more of a character study than anything. People have compared this to the TV show Succession. I had no idea what that meant because I've never seen that show before. But if that means anything to you, I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to let you know in case you know, because I don't know. But yeah, I do like that this was not as heavy handed on the scientific side, and we were just able to, like live with these characters and kind of learn things as they learned things. It definitely reminds me of like a reality show, in the sense of there was so much drama, there were so many reveals, so many truths that came out after the daddy died, because Thayer was a liar and kept a lot of secrets. So having all of those come out and learning more, and finding out some very interesting information along with the siblings, it was a fun time. I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4.5 stars. Like I was in it. This is long. How long is this? Yeah, it's right at 500 pages, and I didn't care. I didn't feel it. I was flying through it. Like I had to know how it was going to end. And look, y'all might not believe me, but I predicted one of the twists, and I'm like, I don't know if it was. I felt like it was kind of obvious, but it was also like I was telling Lex that it would be very wild for Olivie Blake to do that, and guess what? She did it, and I'm like, I always feel good when I guess a twist or, a reveal in a book, and that just made me feel really good. Now it was kind of gross in my opinion. It gave me the ick. It gave me the ick, and I was sad for my girl Ailey, and I had the ick at the same time, and it. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking before I spoil it, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book. And even though it's like centered around grief, each sibling grieving whatever kind of relationship they had with their father, and also grieving the person that they may have thought that they would come, they grieving the potential of the person that people thought that they would become growing up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I tried. So yeah, I don't know that this will be for everybody. I don't know that. And I don't know that I would recommend this to everybody, but I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. I definitely think this will be one of my favorite books of 2025. I also liked the narrator of this because when we first start, you don't really know who's narrating it. The words, but then the narrator becomes a character, and I really enjoyed that. And I just thought that this was snarky and sarcastic and funny, and Arthur was a mess. Arthur had a lot going on, and you know, I feel like ugh, each of these siblings just had a lot going on in different ways, but just had a lot going on, and you just felt for them. And by the end of it, they kind of saw the light, which I was happy about. But yeah, this is wild. This Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely more on the literary side to me, but I liked it. I had a great time. 4.5 stars. If it sounds good, then I'm gonna say give it a shot. But just know that it's not as heavy on the fantasy, and it's kind of on the back burner. It's not even really explained. So if that's gonna bother you, I'm just letting you know, friend. Anyway, I'm done yapping about that book. Okay, y'all. So I have finished this book and I am ready to talk about my thoughts. So I finished Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. This is an adult romantasy, and in this, we're following Shan, who spent her entire life perfecting her blood magic, and now it is time for her to take the place as the head of the family, and she is wanting to enact revenge against the king. And so we also have Samuel, who is a bastard with a terrible gift, and he is then pulled into the court of the vampire king for various reasons. Shan is tasked by the eternal king to discover the identity of a killer who is cutting a bloody swath through the city. So along with Samuel and a mysterious royal blood worker named Isaac, they find themselves caught in a complicated web of desire, treason, and vengeance as they must decide if the good of their nation is worth the price of their souls. And this was pitched to me as polyamorous vampires. Okay? And so, of course, I was like, sign me up, right? But this is way more political than I was expecting it to be. We have a lot of people in this town. Samuel did not know who he was or who his people was, from birth. So he grew up very poor in like the bad part of town, because if either you have blood magic or you don't, and if you don't, you're treated horribly by those who do. And so Samuel grew up as not a blood worker, and Shan and Isaac were they went to school together and they had this slight relationship, but once they became adults and Isaac became the royal blood worker, they went their separate ways. Things ended kind of badly, but now they are reuniting. Shan wants to get revenge on the king for the treatment of people who are not blood workers, and she has concocted this plan to use Samuel in order to do so. And there is someone going around town killing people in the most awful ways and like making like a public spectacle of it. And so the king tasked Shan and Samuel to figure out who the killer is. And Isaac kind of comes along for that, but he is also considered a suspect in it just because they don't know if he did it or not, and everybody is a suspect at this point. So, yeah, I wanted to really like this. I really did, and I had high hopes for this, but I am very much disappointed in my experience reading this. I liked Shan as a main character. She is a pretty badass. She has like a separate identity that she takes on in order to like handle business, and I love that. And I think my problem came in with this is that there was so much like backstory and like I wouldn't even say world building because I still have questions about that. But like so much setup, and I feel like things didn't start happening until like the last third of the book, and it wasn't enough for me. It just felt kind of boring. And as a person who doesn't mind like a character study book or anything like that, I it wasn't because there wasn't action happening that I found it boring. So I don't even know if I'm making sense. When you were saying that this is polyamorous vampires, I want to see it. Okay, I want to see it. I want to see everybody interacting as a couple, not just oh these two and these two and these two. You know, everybody together, or it's just you know. But that's just me. That's just what I wanted from this, and we didn't get this. I thought this had great representation. Isaac is a trans character. Shan and Samuel are obviously queer as well, so it was great representation in that way. I just wanted more. I wanted more of the blood working and how that worked. It was actually kind of more like scientific and things happening in labs, and I wasn't expecting that either. So I don't know. Does that make it more sci-fi leaning? I don't know. I don't know. I wanted more with this mystery, and it felt like okay, so there was a red herring thrown out, but it just almost didn't even make sense. Like you could tell that the author was trying to throw us off the scent of the person who it ended up being anyway. So yeah, I didn't love that part. And it also kind of it made sense why it was the person, but then again it didn't. Maybe it was just the reasonings behind why the person did what they did that I didn't fully understand. And maybe that will be explained in the second book because this is, I think, a duology. I don't know if it's going to go past that, but I do not plan on continuing on in the series. This is it for me. I rated this a 2 star. I wanted more from this. I If you're gonna give me court politics, give me court. I can't even talk. If you're gonna give me court politics, give me court politics. If you're gonna give me vampires, do that. If you're gonna give me a mystery, flesh it out and make it a mystery. Don't make it like as obvious as it was, and then just try to throw this random red herring in to throw us off, even though it didn't make sense that it would even be the red herring. Like I just wanted more, and I wanted it to be better fleshed out. But I do think this is a debut, so I'm gonna go easy on it a little bit, even after I just said I'm gonna give them grace because this is a debut. Let me put it that way. But yeah, I just hoped for and wanted more from this, and I hate that it didn't work out for me because I was super, super excited when I found out about this book. But anyway, I've talked long enough. So yeah, that's Mistress of Lies. Alrighty, friends. And with that being said, it is time for us to wrap up this mood reading vlog that was supposed to be for Pride Month, but here we are. Here we are. So we read Her Majesty's Royal Coven. That was a 4.5 star for me. Being Hospitable was a 3.5 star. Gifted and Talented was also a 4.5. And then Mistress of Lies being a 2 star. So overall, we had a pretty mixed bag, but a lot of successes. So, here for that. And yeah, I yeah, so thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, anything that you do to support me and my channel. It is very much greatly appreciated. I don't know if you just heard that, but my stomach just growled. Anyway, I hope you have the best day that you possibly can. Remember to take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.